Welcome guys! For a long time it's been well known in the PUBG Pro scene that low FPS dramatically changes how weapons feel. Pro players experience low FPS even with high performance PCs because of the large amount of players left in the end of the game. But the truth is that not only does the weapon feel different, but they actually perform different. To demonstrate this, I'm starting off using the Graza in a standard recoil test, but only doing 2 sprays, because that's all we need to see what's going on. Now it's time to limit the FPS using the in-game FPS limiter to simulate 60 frames per second, and then perform the exact same test and see the results. Magically, the vertical recoil becomes lower with the lower FPS, but if there's a correlation between FPS and recoil, it should be even lower at 30 FPS. And yes, the recoil definitely drops down even more at 30 FPS, so there's definitely a correlation here. And don't worry if your monitor can't show more than 60 FPS, because monitor refresh rate has no influence on weapon performance. Doing the same test with the M416 and the Vector, we see similar results. Low FPS equals low recoil. But all of these weapons have a high rate of fire, and it seems like this is only really an issue with weapons that shoots very quickly. Because when testing with the slowest full auto assault rifle in the game, the AKM, we barely see any effect at all of lowering the FPS. Even when lowering the FPS to 30, the AKM doesn't really seem to care at all. And this is also the case when testing the slowest 5.56 assault rifle, the Scar L. Barely any difference whatsoever. So based on these tests, it seems that weapons with a high rate of fire is much more sensitive to low FPS. I believe the reason for this is to be found in the rate of fire, because when shooting a weapon at low FPS, you can easily hear that the weapon shoots slower. And it is also easy to see when comparing high versus low FPS side by side. So while there is a correlation between FPS and recoil, remember that correlation is not causation, and I believe that the lower rate of fire is the reason that the recoil is also low. Because the slower you shoot, the more time the recoil has to recover before the next shot. This is of course just speculation. Now you may wonder why this is even happening in the first place. The recoil in PUBG is calculated every single shot rather than a fixed pattern or running in a loop. This means that a calculation is performed for every single bullet. When you lower the FPS, you will have less frequent computations, and there will simply not be enough time to calculate everything within each frame. So the only way the game can keep up is by slowing down the rate of fire. This actually happens in a lot of games, but this is far more noticeable in a game like PUBG due to the highly complicated recoil. But to sum up, having low FPS does mean that you do less damage due to the lower rate of fire, but you'll have lower recoil. So if you have a fluctuating FPS, your weapon will change its behavior constantly, which will be very hard to control. And if you suffer from very low FPS, the AKM will be a good choice as it will perform consistently regardless. Now that's all I had for you guys in this video. I hope you liked it, and if you did, subscribe to the channel for more, and I'll see you guys next time.